Some losses are just a little tougher to bounce back from. So on today's episode of Locked On Suns, we'll sift through the wreckage of that L in LA and figure out what's real and not real, starting with Devin Booker and Frank Vogel. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 7 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to kick off your Thursday. A longer break than expected between Suns games, but that's okay. I appreciate each and every one of you guys being here. We're free and available everywhere, so if you have not already, just hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening or watching to get a new show in your feed every single Monday through Friday. Become an everydayer and get locked onto the Phoenix Suns right along with me each day till the end of time. There's also bonus content to keep you up to date and informed and analysis filled, including Locked On Suns Insider text alerts, which you can sign up at the link description below. I'll tell you more about it later. But we have a busy show today, so let's not waste any more time. Devin Booker, Frank Vogel, Bradley Beal, that's the agenda. Real, not real, what can get better, what can't? Where are we? It's not only coming off of an NBA Cup loss, but it is also around the 20-game mark of the season, which is always a time to take stock. Not just as fans and analysts, but also coaches tend to break things down that way as well. And while the Suns don't have all the answers due to one of their star players still being out, who we will close the show by talking about, there are still some things we can take away, especially coming off of such a high-profile game. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 into your account if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Elimination game book. Is it real? Is it not real? Is it fair? Is it not fair? First off, if the Suns win against the Lakers last night, nobody is talking about elimination game anything. It's an in-season tournament that people are still a little bit reserved about, not fully sure how they feel, and that is honestly maligned, made fun of by a lot of national analysts and old crotchety, media hosts and everything else. Nobody would sit there and say the curse is broken. Devin Booker is good in elimination games now if he had been excellent last night against the Lakers. I'm recording this on Wednesday. All right, so let's just preface everything by saying that. However, he, of course, was not excellent. They did not win. And he was 21 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, but most glaringly, 6 of 16 from the field and 7 turnovers. Not to mention 5 fouls and was in foul trouble, meaning that, there were some moments in the game, especially in that second quarter, where he was not able to be out there and help the team. Beyond that, Game 6 of the NBA Finals in 2021, Booker is 8 of 22 from the field, 0 of 7 from 3 for 19 points to go with 6 turnovers. Game 7 against Dallas, 11 points, 3 of 14 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3, 4 turnovers. And last year against Denver, obviously being the Dallas and Denver games being the worst losses, he was 4 of 13 for 12 points, 2 turnovers. Now, in both the Mavericks game and the Nuggets game, he was likely a little bit banged up against the Bucks, may or may not have had COVID-19. None of that is an excuse. He did not help himself last night by posting the timeout call which I will not be wasting any more breath on. However, the NBA's last 2-minute report indicating that timeout was legit is absolute BS, complete nonsense, but whatever. Booker posting that photo on his Instagram story and then taking it down did not do him any favors in the NBA circles that just like to roast everyone. Still, those numbers speak for themselves. This is now 4 games, 4 opportunities in big, high-profile games where Booker has not played up to his usual standards. Let me say some good things before I address some of the bad things, all right? First off, if we're going to include the NBA in-season tournament, the NBA Cup quarterfinal as some sort of legacy-defining moment for Booker, can we not also remember the NBA bubble? Let me recite to you the performances that Booker ripped off in 8 straight wins, all do or die, winning all of those games and still coming short of the playoffs to show you just how dire the circumstances and stakes were. Game number 1, 27-5-4. Game number 2, 33-4. 3, 35-4-8. 23-10, 35-3-6, 35-5-4, 35-9-7, 27-7-5. Again, all wins, many double-digit wins. 4 of those wins were by double digits. And outside of the first game, shot 46% or better in every performance, lifting a much less talented team than he has had since, nearly to an unexpected playoff berth in a situation where the Suns were all but counted out and expected not to even be much of a factor at all in any sort of postseason race whatsoever. Those were all effectively elimination games. I think that they were just as high stakes, if not higher, than this random NBA Cup game, which matters. I've loved these games. I think this tournament has been a rousing success, but doesn't actually affect anything outside of an L in the regular season standings. That is all that happened last night in the grand scheme of things. But we're calling it elimination game. I think we should call the bubble elimination games as well. Another good thing. Maybe. I guess it depends on how you feel. It's okay. It is okay to say that Devin Booker is not good enough to will an offense to greatness alone on a game-by-game, night-by-night basis. That shouldn't be dramatic or disrespectful to state. All right? That list, in my recollection, in recent NBA history, I've been watching NBA games for going on 30 years. I also have been covering the league in some way, shape, or form, as I say at the top of this show, for about 7 years, and I've been a big-time NBA fan for like 20. The ones that I can remember being a great offense unto themselves is incredibly short. You're probably talking about Steve Nash, LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, James Harden. That's what I could remember off the top of my head. That's 5 people where you roll the ball out, they control every possession, and you're going to be a top 5 offense and be able to score at a high level, be competitive in most games on a nightly basis. Devin Booker not being on that list hardly means anything. It just means that you have to surround him with great players. And look, lo and behold, the Suns have done that. Kevin Durant was excellent in this particular elimination game, if we're calling it that, and the Suns only lost by 3 points. In my book, it worked. Because this is a conversation for a different time. I know people can disagree, but I think NBA history would tell us that Kevin Durant is probably not on that list either of players who have the ball in their hands constantly and can create enough for themselves and their teammates to be an elite offense on a nightly basis. Kevin Durant is often the leader of elite offenses, but there are things around him that he needs as well. Shooting, playmaking, on and on. The two of them together are one of the best offensive duos and forces that the NBA has this season. they're an NBA championship contender, regardless of what happened against the Lakers, because the two of them have proven to be pretty unstoppable most nights when they've played together. But the bad thing, to close things out, the disappointing, the negative, the con, the argument against Booker is there are some things that happen in these games that we simply do not understand. He makes mistakes that are uncharacteristic and rightfully earn him some side eyes and allegations of fraudulence, right? It's just what it is. He drops the ball. He loses focus. I thought he played pretty poorly on defense against the Lakers. He just is out of sorts, in a funk. Those are the types of things that you have to explain, but can't always explain. And so therefore, we resort to, he doesn't have it. In elimination games, he can't meet the moment. All these sort of cliches, but they only become cliches about you if you allow them to. And so while there's plenty of evidence, and I just listed some of it out, that Booker is A-okay in these moments, he's been excellent in a lot of postseason moments that were not elimination games. I have no reason to believe that there's some sort of mental block where he's not going to be good only in games where he could be eliminated but never ever else. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The reality is there's now 4 games where he's done exactly that. And so as the postseason nears once again in about 4 months, and we look to see how Booker performs, he has some proving to do whether we like it or not. Let's talk about Frank Vogel. Does he have any proving to do? Next. First, today's show brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, and my favorite place to make a bet. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 into your account if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than the present. I will say it again. I have said it before. The best place, the best way to cash in on this offer is to make the biggest of moneyline bets on the biggest of favorites. The Miami Dolphins are minus 900 at home on Monday night, hosting the Tennessee Titans. Drop a little cash on that one, get the bonus bet, and get to work. There's more bets beyond that to be made, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and celebrate the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Keeping it rolling. Are we judging Frank Vogel by the right criteria? I'm going to hold myself accountable, and I'm going to rewind back to when the Suns coaching search was going on, when Vogel was hired, and judge him by what I said then, what I wanted to see from him at that time, and whether he has lived up to that. Before I do that, I want to remind you to sign up for the Locked On Suns Insider Text Alert, where you get my first reaction to all Suns news and rumors, exclusive game day content and observations from Footprint Center and the Verizon 5G practice facility, and weekly deep dive video breakdowns delivered directly to your phone. I have a private link on YouTube that I text out to all the subscribers with analysis of one big topic in Suns land each and every week. Plus, you can engage directly with me, respond, give me a piece of your mind. I'll do giveaways and Q&As there throughout the season. So join the Locked On Suns Insiders now to be in the know about the Phoenix Suns all the time. Click the link in the show description below or visit joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSuns. That's joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSuns, or click that link below. Let's go. Vogel. The 3 things that I think I wanted to see from Vogel, the way that I talked myself into this hire, beyond Kevin Young sticking around and the coaching staff that he was able to build out, those made me feel good too. But from Vogel specifically, it was 3 things. Number 1, adaptivity. Number 2, defense. Number 3, owning the paint. Those are three things that I think Vogel has proven himself good at during his career as an NBA head coach. All right? So how has he done in those three categories this season in Phoenix? Let's start with number one, adaptivity. I'm not even sure that's a word, but Google Docs is not giving me a red squiggly line, so I believe that it is a word, and I will continue to say it, adaptivity. For one, Vogel's not afraid to change the lineup. I mean, that might sound like nothing, but it is something. A lot of coaches are stubborn. Monty Williams was incredibly stubborn. He would rather have lost games with a center on the court at all times and Landry Shamet out there to execute the offense and banish Jay Crowder to his home rather than going all-out guerrilla warfare to win each and every game, right? A few examples of, I think, Vogel doing this season. Last night, two things. Nasir Little guarding LeBron James. Nasir Little wasn't even in the rotation the first time these teams played. LeBron ate at the basket, and the Lakers blew out the Suns with the big fourth quarter. I mentioned this multiple times now. It was in last week's Locked On Suns Insider video. But Yusuf Nurkic being used as a perimeter playmaker to pull Anthony Davis out of the paint. Suns were not very quick to do that last night, but they did it eventually, and it's a big part of why the second half went a little better. Also, Nurkic was in foul trouble, so he wasn't always able to do that. But when he was, you saw it work. Going small against the Utah Jazz with Kevin Durant at center and Chimezie Metu on the court and some of those lineups. That was a back-to-back, or I guess I should say a doubleheader against the Jazz where it became very clear it was going to be all offense. The Suns' defense was not working, and Booker and Durant had it going, and Vogel said, all right, we'll let you guys cook. We'll do what needs to be done personnel-wise in order to get the most out of the offense and let you guys win us these games. And look, Booker Durant went ahead and won the games. Last but not least, I think Eric Gordon's the usage of Eric Gordon against the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? The Wolves are a little weird and tricky with matchups. They said Gordon and Cat are going to be matched up tonight. So while Gordon is not going to be able to punish Cat as an off-ball movement shooter the same way that we saw Cam Johnson do it last year, they made an emphasis of getting the ball to Gordon consistently, and Cat had to move, and Gordon had a big game, right? So I think the adaptivity part of this, I think you have to be pleased with. Almost everybody on this roster has seen the court at one time or another. They have had moments where they're a very big team rotation-wise. They've had moments where they're a little smaller rotation-wise. Now to the bad stuff. Defense. The Suns are 17th overall. They're not forcing any turnovers, and they're not keeping their transition defense in check. Those are the two elements of a Vogel defense that have always been there. And they have not been this year. There's not a lot I can say. I think that there have been some moments where the defense has looked better. I did a video 2 weeks ago for Locked On Suns Insider subscribers on the defense and some strides that I felt were being made. I think Nasir Little has been much improved from the beginning of the season. I think the Jordan Goodwin, Josh Okogie tandem, I think Vogel has been pretty smart overall about pushing those buttons, and some games they'll play a lot, some games they'll play less. But the numbers speak for themselves. And if you're talking about personnel, I guess you have to have the caveat that Portland is 12th in defense. Who is the center over there, right? Could have been the Suns center. It's not. That wasn't Vogel's choice. I'm not saying that the team would be better overall if they had not made that trade, but when you're talking about defense, I think that Vogel took that job feeling like DeAndre Ayton was going to be the anchor here. He didn't know for sure. Obviously, everybody knows the Suns have been shopping Ayton, but maybe things are different in that case. Which brings us to the last element, which is owning the paint. Defensively, it has not happened. The Suns allow the 9th most shots in the NBA at the rim. They allow the 13th best efficiency at the rim for opponents, and they're allowing the 9th most offensive rebounds in the NBA. Offensively, things have not necessarily been much better. The Suns are taking the 10th fewest shots at the rim in the NBA, and they are making the 9th fewest shots at the rim in the NBA. I did a whole long rant heading into the season about how the best teams, the one thing that links them, where personnel might be different, three-point frequency and commitment to the three ball might be different, the type of player that the star of each team is may be different, but owning the paint is a prerequisite to winning a championship in the NBA. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I thought that Vogel would be a driving force in getting the Suns closer to owning the paint when Monty Williams, offensively especially, just did not really emphasize that much. And that has not been the case. So if I'm having 3 criteria, Vogel's 1 out of 3 right now. I guess I should say the reason I'm talking about all this is people who I respect have started to question Vogel more online. I don't see a lot of specificity in those complaints, so that's part of why I wanted to talk about it, to actually get a little bit more in the weeds and be a little bit more direct about the conversation. I think after last night, there were some challenges maybe that people wanted to see. To me, that's a 50-50 proposition at best, even if you use them. There's been a lot of slow starts, and I do tend to blame the coach there. But let me give some caveats. One is a negative caveat. The Suns have had the easiest schedule in the NBA so far. So them only being where they are in the standings at 12-9 and having some struggles, it's like, even with no minutes for the big 3, you would expect that they should be a little bit ahead of where they are. Their point differential is an indicator of a team better than they've been. So maybe that is a knock on Vogel too. Yet, they've had slightly more road games than home games. And I also think that they've had a pretty difficult home schedule. And I know this is semantics. This is not going to be what determines whether a coach succeeds or not. But it matters. Their home schedule, they've played, I believe, 10 home games. 5 of them have been against the Lakers, Warriors, Wolves, Thunder, and Nuggets. Those are like the 5 of the best 8 teams in the West. But the biggest one to me is that they've only, aside from Beal not playing much and no minutes for the big 3 together, set that aside. That's obvious. That's just the hand that everybody's been dealt here. The other caveat is that the preferred starting lineup, even with Beal out of the lineup, has only played 89 minutes together. That is Book, Allen, Gordon, Durant, Nurkic. 89 minutes. That's less than 2 games. Right? But that lineup has been incredible. 133 offensive rating, 109 defensive rating. That's a plus 24 net rating. So, you just extrapolate out, what if Vogel had even just had those 5 healthy all season? 24 net rating. What complaints do we have then? Close loss to the Lakers. Some rough moments here and there. Maybe some strange Book moments. Maybe some strange KD moments. Nurkic frustration. All that would still be there. But I guarantee you they'd probably be better than 12-9. And we probably wouldn't be looking at Vogel too much, despite everything I've been saying there about their inconsistency in some of the key areas that Vogel tends to own. I don't have a firm opinion one way or the other, but I think Vogel's been better. He's been good more than he's been bad, even though he's 1 out of 3 by my criteria. But I think this is something good to come back to, this criteria, and I'll do it throughout the season whenever I really try to have an honest conversation about Vogel. Let's have an honest conversation about Bradley Beal. I'm not going to put my doctor's hat on, but what I will do is tell you 3 things, having watched this team for 20 games, that Bradley Beal will bring that will help. We'll do that next. First, today's show brought to you by Prize Picks, the savior of daily fantasy sports, because they do it better than anybody. With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from Prize Picks Specials League. All right. What the Specials League is it allows you to combine lineups across sports, meaning you can combine LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 overall combination of threes made and receptions. Of course, you want to go more. Those two guys are great, but you can go with anybody. I love Prize Picks because they allow you to mix and match like that, but they also offer you a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players get injured. They offer quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and enormous selection of players and stat types, but best of all, you're not playing against an opponent. No pool, no head-to-head, no league. It's just you versus the Prize Picks player projections in those specials leagues, in the one sport leagues, and beyond. I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com, love it yourself, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA when you play for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDONNBA, or prizepicks.com/LOCKEDONNBA to get a first deposit match up to $100, meaning if you throw in $100 to your account, Prize Picks matches that. It is easily the best daily fantasy sports made easy. Let's close out the show. Don't forget to follow the Locked On Suns TikTok account for game reaction videos and more analysis all year long. You'll hear me ranting and raving and being a lunatic about the last 2-minute report. That link is in the show description as well, or you can just search Locked On Suns if you already have a TikTok account, and you'll find that account on the app. Let's talk about Bradley Beal. What does he bring? What does he really, truly bring? I don't think he brings defense. I'm going to go ahead and bury my hopes and dreams about that, not only because he just did not look great on that end in the preseason and regular season when he has played, but especially because I'm not going to treat somebody coming off of a back disc injury in order as the savior of anything related to the defensive end of the floor. Didn't mean to start that so negatively, but I have 3 things that I think will help that Beal brings. And the first one is the easiest, and it relates exactly to the Lakers stuff we've been talking about and how that game played out. And it's just another ball handling threat. You know, I tend to think like you can learn a lot from what NBA teams actually do. You don't have to guess and do takes and build a narrative. You can just watch. You want to know how you want to know why I think the Suns need a ball handler. You want to know how I know they need another ball handler? Is they are searching for one. They're playing Jordan Goodwin as a ball handler. They're playing Jordan Goodwin as a point guard. When he plays with Book, there's multiple times each game where they run some off-ball stuff for Book. If they didn't think they needed to do that for Book's physical stamina reasons or just offensive variety reasons or anything else, do you want to know what would happen? They wouldn't do it, but they are. Meaning, Beal will really help there. Whether it's just bringing the ball up the court and being a good entry passer to Kevin Durant, being the guy who stands at the top of the arc and doesn't turn the ball over while Book runs off of a screen and initiates something, or somebody who really runs a pick and roll and maybe allows Booker and or Durant to sort of just spot up. That 3-headed monster has been only 2-headed recently, and it shows. A lot of those turnovers, even if Booker has improved playing off of blitzes and hedges and junk defenses, and they've been able to beat zones a lot of the time and a lot of other things here, it helps to have more of it. As I said at the beginning with Booker and the guys who can create an entire offense by themselves, as I talked about on the recap show with Brandon Duenas after the game on Tuesday, there's a reason most teams and most historical eras of basketball have had the idea that the guy playmaking and the best scorer should probably be different dudes. It's very hard to do both. Booker is among the class of players who can do both, but even he has limits, and Beal can help shore that up. The other thing, movement shooting. The Suns don't have anybody who can do that. They have spot-up players, and I guess Grayson Allen gets pretty close to being a movement shooter at times. He is somebody who can come off screens off the ball. He is a threat to pass, drive, and shoot when he does get the ball off those screens. But at the end of the day, he's best in a spot-up environment or in a very quick, easy decision environment. What Bradley Beal can do is run off of a screen and hit a really difficult three. Full motion, leap and release, let it fly, watch it go in. He can come off of a screen, maybe get a dribble handoff and hit the gas downhill. He can be a screener or be a ball handler and then become a screener or then become a spacer and be a scoring threat out of all of those scenarios. I think that's one of the elements of his game that's come along the most as his career continued in Washington without John Wall, without Russell Westbrook. And I think he'll be able to bring that here. And that brings us to the last thing, which is a different sized player, right? I mean, he's about the same height as Book, but I think that's secretly one of the strengths of this Suns team is that they feature star players and playmakers, and I include Yusuf Nurkic in that, who are all different sizes. And when I think about what made Beal effective last season in Washington with Porzingis and Kuzma and even Daniel Gafford, it's that they all were capable of handling, screening, and scoring out of any set, right? You would see times where Porzingis ran a two-man game dribble handoff action with Beal, but you didn't know if Porzingis was going to pop or drive. You didn't even know if Porzingis was actually going to give the ball up or fake it into a scoring opportunity for himself. You didn't know when Beal screened whether he was going to pop or maybe catch the ball quickly and drive to the basket. Same with Kuzma. That versatility, that unpredictability was really cool to watch and results from the threat of a mismatch. When Porzingis is 7 feet tall and Beal is 6'3", if you switch any of those actions, each of them can beat that mismatch. And Porzingis developed that. You're seeing it continue in Boston. Kuzma's 6'9". So that variety helped them a lot. And you've already seen that with Booker, Durant, and Nurkic. And I think Beal will only add to it. You cannot really, maybe you can switch if Booker and Beal are in an action, but they're not going to be screening for each other much because that doesn't make sense. Instead, it's going to be double screens with Durant and Nurkic involved, where there's multiple switches needing to happen or multiple rotations. You can't really help off certain guys. You can't fall behind because they're all deadly shooters. And so it's going to be forcing switches, forcing help, and Beal being able to beat that is going to go a long way. I was skeptical at a certain point when Booker first came back. How much better can this offense get? What do they really need? Allen and Gordon have been perfectly serviceable, and Allen's been even better than that. What's the point? What's the gain to be had? The gain to be had is immense. It's significant. And these games, Toronto, LA, where Booker has struggled, some of the games where Durant has maybe struggled, they show you why. Not every team needs 3 stars because some teams have better role players. Some teams have better shooters. Some teams have better size at other positions. The Suns need their 3 stars. And I'm excited to watch it. I hope Beal comes back soon. He was pregame. He was warming up in LA. Vogel said he's starting to return to some form of action. He is about a week or so away from that 3-week timetable where he was supposed to be reevaluated and a more official diagnosis was going to be coming. Again, not putting on the doctor's hat, but I think I speak for everyone when I say our fingers are crossed that he can return, look like himself again, feel good, stay healthy, and get this team to its eventual ceiling. That will wrap us up for the day. Don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Suns Insider Text Alerts at the link in the show description below or at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSuns. Follow Locked On Suns on TikTok, and I will be back tomorrow with Aaron Edwards and then Friday as well with a Locked On Suns audio feed exclusive game preview for that Sacramento matchup that we didn't want to have to see, but should be still a very fun game. The Suns have matched up well against the Kings in this iteration. Durant especially big game in the West and home game. So catch that preview on the audio feed, all that extra content as well, airing tomorrow, and I'll talk to you guys next time.